Hi guys, Mr. Trainer here. Just talking a little tessellation in Art 1, and this is part 2 of our tessellation series. You should have already gone to the hyperdoc that was marked tessellation and MCS or part 1. This is part 2. So if you haven't looked already, every single thing I'm sharing with you is in a hyperdoc so that it's clean, easy, and simple for you to understand with all the links and all the videos and everything that you'll need, and usually links to written explanations or videos of everything. So I'm recording this video this morning. It is March 27th. It is still spring break for most of you. So the due dates that I'm talking about are over a week away, and I'm going to offer a chance for you, if you're interested, you can do a Google Hangout with me next week on our first full week of online schooling to check and see if you have questions. So after you see this video and you watch it, you can rewatch it. You can come join me live for a little bit in case you have any questions. So let's get down to business and explain this quickly and effectively. And I guess, and if you have questions, you can ask me online at a later date. So you should have already done part 1, which is the idea that you went in and took a Post-it or a sticky note and you learned how to tessellate it, meaning you learned that you're going to cut 1 to 2 sides of that piece of Post-it, and you're going to do one of 3 types of tessellation. You were either doing rotation, reflection, or translation. I'm not going to go into that again because I already explained that in the first hyperdoc that was linked to you, and since this is part 2, I don't want to repeat, but essentially you should have come up with a shape. Now yours will look wildly different than mine. I did something very random. I wanted to be random so that I could work as a challenge to come up with something on my own different. So that's the shape I came up with. I'm not going to tell you, as I said, which type I used. I'll let you figure that out, but I chose one of the 3 methods to come up with my tessellation. I then took it over to a scrap piece of paper. I happen to use it inside of one of my other sketchbooks, but you could be doing this in your sketch journal on a piece of scrap paper. You decide what you want to do it on. And I then kind of traced it multiple times to come up with my plan. In addition, you should have already, as part of step 1, I'm going to do a little reveal, traced it across a 2-page spread, proving that it interlocks into itself. So a tessellation defined means that it's one shape that interlocks into itself, almost like a puzzle, without any gaps or spaces. A tessellation must not have any gaps or spaces. So more on my unfinished part here, you probably can see that a little bit easier. So before I got to that, I traced out all my shapes, or I traced out 2 of them, and I started kind of messing around or playing around with ideas. So since I haven't been spending a great deal of time outdoors, I want to escape. I'd love to travel and get away. I started kind of sketching out or doodling out little trees and thinking about going for hikes. And although I've been walking around here locally, I wanted to hike someplace obviously far away from North Canton, Ohio. So my design is, and you can kind of see it here, is a mountain ridge. My first design is a mountain ridge, a tree. You can see the tree trunk here, a little pine tree sitting up on one ridge, another pine tree, and then a sort of already sort of more organic shaped tree with some sort of abstract leaves in it, and of course the mountain ridge. Now, your job is to come up with 2 different designs so that they can contrast each other. They should be similar in ideas, but they should contrast. So I decided to then do a separate plan, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And I thought I'll do a mountain ridge from far, far away with the sun shining on it, the clouds setting over the horizon, and you can kind of see it up here. You can see then there's this river valley that's sort of going in the middle. That was going to be plan 2. That was going to be the second version of my same shape. So you'll see that they're both the same, but they tessellate into each other. So I oddly had this sort of weird number 3 I didn't plan on having. And you can see that mine rotates. Hey, that should give you a hint as the style of tessellation that I used. And I came up with 2 different designs. Now, I did the first one in pen and pencil. So let's talk about supplies for a minute. So you're going to be graded on 4 things: craftsmanship, In other words, how neat were you? Did you have any random stray marks? Is it like you took that extra step to care and provide clearness? Is it easy to read? We talk all the time how artwork is readable, just like a book or a paragraph is readable, because people have to be able to intake the information, understand the information, and be able to explain the information back. So is it readable? Can you see it? Can you understand it? Can you translate what you're seeing on paper in this case? So that's one of the things you're going to be graded on, and use of media. So I know not everyone has a full art studio in their house. I don't expect you to. So to prove how simple you can keep this, I literally took a ballpoint pen from the junk drawer of my house and a mechanical pencil from the junk drawer of my house. I'm not using fancy supplies. So I'm using both of those supplies, and I'm going to show you that I know how to use that media successfully. I know how to accomplish blending or working pencil and pen together to create what I consider to be a very clean, readable design. So that was plan one. This was design number two. Now, why isn't design number two in pencil or in pen? Because I realized after I did this one that these two were not going to be readable together. They weren't going to stand out. And full disclosure, let's put over here to my semi-finished one, it's not done. I realized that long after I made the second design. So you can see here, I'm pulling it up, I taped underneath, there was the first design that I did. And I hated it. It was a mistake. I screwed it up. I make lots of mistakes. We talk about that in class all the time. You're going to make mistakes. So to fix my problem, I went and took my Post-it, my good old Tessellation Post-it. I went to another piece of my sketchbook paper and I traced an extra one, cut it out. And my plan is to tape. I'm actually going to eventually glue it in there. I'm going to glue it in place so that it is a permanent fixture in there and not temporary. I left it temporary so you guys could see how much your art teacher screws up on his own, just like you probably might make a mistake too. So I have my two designs. I have my first design, which is the tree that I showed you earlier. You can see there's the tree there on its side. You can see one of the pine trees here. There's another pine tree on the ridge. And then, of course, there's the mountain ridge going alongside here. In my second design, I opted to do something that stood out or contrasted, because I know that's one of the skills I learned in class this year. So that's one of those ways you can show growth as an artist, which is the third thing you're going to be graded on, growth as an artist. Did I take things that I've learned all year and have I been able to input them or integrate them into this assignment, showing that I've grown? I don't just know the basics anymore. We're in second semester. I'm now more sophisticated. I'm able to take things I've learned from the past and incorporate them into new work that I'm making. So I knew that my design that I did with the sunset was never going to work. So this time I made sure that when I took care of the sky, I intentionally made the sky dark so that I knew that it would stand out against my other ones. So you can see a bear. This one's upside down. This one's right side up. So I took this bear and I used him in what is this sort of awkward looking sideways three shape that I had going. And I designed a bear. He's slightly abstracted, but he's in this mountain ridge that I designed. You can see another tree. You can see now two white pine trees, and then you can see how dark it is. And you can see that I'm eventually working my design all the way across my 2-page spread. So that's what I've done so far. Your job is to fill the whole thing and to remember the last and fourth step. The fourth thing you're going to be graded on. So we've covered craftsmanship, use of media, growth as an artist. How did you use the skills you already know and integrate them into this? Did you do a little research? Did you go above and beyond to show that you put thought, depth into the work, or did you take the first most basic response you could? That shows growth as an artist. The fourth one is full blended value. So I took and I decided that in both pieces or both segments, I've got full blended value. So let's take an example here above the bear on the back side of him. This awkward shape, I decided to use my drawing pencil, in this case, a very cheap mechanical pencil, and I've pressed the pencil as hard as I can to get as dark as I can to create a number 6 value. You all should know what that means. We've learned that since the fourth week of school, and I've taken a number 6 value as dark as I can, and I'm slowly letting it blend out to get to what would be eventually a white value. And I'm going to do the same thing in the same exact shape, in the same exact design that's rotated, going the opposite direction. So I have 2 separate designs. They are identical in every other way. So if I look I've got the same design, identical. I'm going to be truthful with you. There are places where they're not exact. I could trace them if I wanted to in my sketchbook. I could have drawn my design out twice on a post-it. I could have put it underneath and taken it to my window in my living room or dining room or any room in my house and traced it with sunlight. But I decided to freehand draw it and try to be as close as possible. So I'm challenging myself to get an almost an exact replica each time. So you'll see, as I said, I'm working my way across. I've shown full blended value in both squares. I've done it here too, across the bear's back with pencil, and I'm going to let it blend out to be a white value. And then, of course, I'm going to do that in every picture that's identical to the one on the bear here. So again, across the bear's back. And this one, I'm going to start out and create a number 6 value, and then I'm going to let it fade. So it doesn't mean that you have to have expensive supplies. You don't have to have the best supplies at home to make beautiful works of art. You just need to be thoughtful and show growth, craftsmanship, and of course, full blended value. And again, if you've got markers and you'd rather use those, or you've got colored pencil or watercolor or acrylic paint, you do you. I've had students who've even done this with instant coffee, and they've used it in lieu of watercolor. They make up a very dark instant coffee. You choose the media that you think you'll be successful with, and you could practice that media on the back or on a scrap piece of paper until you're sure you're successful. Practice, practice, practice. Then once you're satisfied, you're going to then create the final work on a 2-page spread. Now, once you're done, you're going to take a photo of that. You're going to take that photo. You can either take it with the camera of your Chromebook, or you can take it on your cell phone, whatever you're most comfortable with, and you're going to submit it. In addition to submitting it, I'm going to go close out of that camera screen for a second. In addition to that, you're going to then also see, I'm on the HyperDoc right now. I'm going to shrink this a little bit more. You're going to see on that HyperDoc, you're going to see a Show What You Know quiz. So there is a Show What You Know quiz linked in Schoology. I'm going to go again. You're going to see in that tessellation file, you're going to see a Show What You Know. You're going to click on that. There are only 2 multiple choice questions. They relate to obviously what types of tessellations are there and how is it defined. And the last question is a brief, short response, you giving me your evaluation of your own artwork. So you're going to do a self-reflection. That's going to be graded. And to be fair, that's how I'm going to check in every week that you're making artwork or participating in class. That's my way of sort of taking attendance. So I'll be looking to see that you've submitted artwork. I'm going to see that you've been checking in and taking care of the Show What You Know. And of course, everything that I've explained is on the HyperDoc that I shared with you right here. That HyperDoc has everything that you need linked cleanly and clearly. The only thing I couldn't link is the actual Show What You Know. You can kind of see it right here, but it reminds you to go to Schoology. And if you can't do that, or you struggle to do that, you can always remember that running along, I'm going to go to the materials section, running along the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see a little green Show What You Know tessellation. You can go there and do it. When you're finished and you want to submit your final work, you're going to see again in the online learning folder under tessellation. It is not live now, but you're going to see in my file folder, it says Tessellation Final Design. You're going to click on that, and it's going to offer you the chance to submit it. When it goes live, I haven't put it up yet because I didn't want to overwhelm everyone. Right now, you should, as of now, already taken care of part 1. I'll make this live very soon. So again, you want to check out the HyperDoc. You want to make sure that you are following along with all of the instructions that are linked there also. And you want to know that I am going to go live probably sometime early in our first week of online learning. So if you want to jump on and ask me questions on Google Hangout, you certainly can do that. Otherwise, I'm going to assume you can tackle this. When is it due? When is it due? It says at the bottom of the HyperDoc. It says assignment due Monday, April 6th. That is already scheduled to be our first day back. We don't know if we're coming back. I know nothing more than you do, but the assumption is that we're coming back on Monday, April 6th. Your job is to have that submitted at the end of the day by Monday, April 6th. You guys have a great week. Stay safe. I hope everything's going well. I'll enlarge one more time so you can see my semi-finished product with my 2 media. And if you have questions, just let me know. Have a great week, you guys.